Hi folks, how are we all enjoying ourselves today in the lockdown? Thought I'd come and give you a look at the rock pool down here. It's quite a beautiful area. Not too far from where I live. But things are just continuing, folks. The lockdown continues. I posted an interesting report yesterday by a man called Jensen, who's a United States Senator, who's also a doctor, who explained very clearly how they were fudging the figures. And I think it's a very interesting report that people should watch and people should share. It was on Fox News, which was a huge surprise that you would see anything truthful on Fox News, but there we go, that's where it was. And it was quite truthful. It was a very good report. The thing is, I think even the reporters will figure out that, hang on, we're in lockdown too. The order followers and the people that have been used to brainwash everybody else, they don't matter either. They're going to get hung out to dry the same as everybody else. And I think many of them are seeing that. And I think we're going to see more and more of these people begin to break ranks as they realise that the cabal doesn't care about them any more than it cares about anybody else. There was also the report by the doctor, what's the name? Bukacek, Dr. Bukacek or Bukacek, I think. A female doctor. I mentioned her on the last report, and I put a link below. I'll put another one below on this report today. Richie from Boston actually had him on his show, I think, or he might have uploaded that video as well. He's been putting out some good reports on this. He's one of the people that actually get it, that this pandemic is fake. A lot of people seem to have dropped the ball on it, but Richie's doing some good stuff. So that's good to see. There was another report by Dr. Shiva, which I highly recommend that people look at. Again, I'll put a link below. Tells you what's really going on. They're locking the borders down a little bit further here over Easter. We've just had the reports come in. It really is a beautiful place, folks. A friend of mine has just come back from overseas, a young girl who often works for me as an assistant, or helps me out anyway. I like to refer to her as my assistant, although she's more of a friend than anything. She's arrived back in Australia from Bali, and she's in lockdown in Sydney at the moment. Very interesting. They've got her in this hotel. They're ringing her up every day and asking her if she's okay, asking her how she feels and all that sort of stuff. And they've got her in this hotel where she's got no air. There's no windows she can open. Her food is delivered to her in a paper bag, and she's given bamboo cutlery to eat from. She's not allowed to do anything normal. Not allowed to go outside, not allowed to have any fresh air. She's sort of starting to develop a little bit of hay fever just from the unit that she's in. Like, they've literally put her into a unit which would virtually induce sickness into anybody. And they keep ringing her up every day asking her how she feels and all this sort of stuff. She's saying, well, a little bit of fresh air would be good. Saying, can I get you anything? She's saying, yes, you could maybe get me some fresh air. That would be wonderful. But that's the situation she's in. And like I said yesterday, one of the really unfortunate parts about this is the supply chain, what this is going to do to the supply chain. The supply chain has already been so incredibly interrupted, and it's just kind of going to get worse from here on, folks. It's not going to go back to normal. But like I said, fortunately, a lot of people seem to be speaking out about it, and that's good. A lot of doctors are coming forward and saying this is complete crap, and it is, folks. It's complete crap, and these people are going to push, and they're going to continue pushing until we say no more. and they're going to push their mandatory vaccines. That's what it's all about. But understand, folks, they haven't even isolated the virus, so how can they possibly be making a vaccine for it if they haven't isolated the virus? How does that work? But they're talking about mandatory vaccines. That's what it's all about. And it's a huge scam, folks. You do not have to take their vaccine, and you should not take their vaccine. And this is the moment that we've been waiting for. This is the moment that you can really choose to step into your power if you want to. You know, you can, folks. I mean, all of this really, I mean, it's a spiritual test. It's a spiritual battle that we're fighting here. And now's the time that people have to step up to the plate. You know, everybody who's even vaguely awake needs to step up to the plate now. Listen, while I think of it as well, I want to put out a mention to a very dear friend of mine who is very ill at the moment. Oh, look out, folks. COVID-19. It's all over. I'm coughing. But I want to put out a word of mention to Ian R. Crane, who's in hospital in the UK at the moment. Ian Crane is taken a turn for the worst. Ian's suffering from prostate cancer. He informed me of this several months ago and asked me not to speak of it to people, and I haven't been speaking it, but he's taken a bit of a turn for the worse, and he is currently in hospital in England, and we're hoping he's going to pull through this current situation he's in. Ian's a wonderful man. He's a very, very knowledgeable man. He's a very kind man. He's a very dear friend of mine. And Ian, if you're listening to this, I love you, brother, and I'm sending you all of my strength and energy at the moment. And anybody who's listened to Ian, I really hope you can send him your love and your strength and energy at the moment. Don't write to him or email him. He probably can't take the emails at the moment. He can't answer your messages, but just energetically, just send him that love. Send him that energy. He's a good man. He's been a strong voice. He's brought a lot of people together. He's brought a lot of information to people. And he's a very kind and very sincere man, so I wish him all the best. He certainly deserves better than what he's going through at the moment. But then we all do deserve better than what we're going through at the moment, folks. And like I said, you know, this isn't going to go away. It's not going to go back to normal. And it's important that people understand that we really are at a turning point in history, folks. We're at a turning point in the human experience. And things are simply not going to go back to how they were. Now, that's not what this is about. They'll keep pushing until we push back. It's always been the plan. And it's just what they do. Look, I urge everyone to watch that report that I uploaded yesterday by Scott Jensen. The report where he's talking about the way they're fudging the figures and fudging the numbers. And folks, you know, there is no coronavirus. Sure, I mean, there's coronaviruses. I mean, I'm wrong in saying that. Coronaviruses exist. Sure, there's lots of coronaviruses. But there's no COVID-19. This whole pandemic, it's a complete hoax. Like I said, a lot of people are actually picking up on it. A lot of people kind of bought into the fear campaign. A lot of people think, oh no, there's these terrible deaths and there's this terrible pandemic that's sweeping the world. A lot of people still think Trump's on their side. I mean, the Q movement has been incredible, really, when you look at it. I mean, what a brilliant plan. The Q movement has managed to get all of the patriots, all the gun owners, all the constitutionalists, all the people, all the militia, all the people who would have stood up for the country, and it's managed to get them to sit on their asses for the last 3 years, believing that the state is their friend. And they're all basically sitting there cheering on communism and cheering on socialism, which is what all of this is, folks. I mean, yeah, there's an interesting discussion actually on Richie from Boston's channel where he talked about this possibly being a Passover event. That's an interesting theory as well. So, you know, there's all sorts of things people are looking at with this, folks. There really is. Nothing is what it seems. You know, this is one big test of the human spirit. One big experiment to see how far people can be pushed until they will decide to push back. That's what I think is a big part of it, folks. You know, that's the question people have to ask. You know, how much are you prepared to take? How much are you willing to be pushed until you're just going to say, hey, enough is enough, we don't want to do this anymore? I mean, I see this as a huge opportunity for the human race. I really do. With all the bad stuff that's happening, it's a huge opportunity, folks, because now the system's laid bare. This is the apocalypse, the great revealing. Like I said, folks, 2020 vision. Come 2020, we're going to know what's going on. We're not going to have to ask questions anymore. Everything is going to reveal itself, and it's certainly done it with to a shocking degree. I mean, to a degree that none of us really would have thought was possible. But, and like I said, I think they will roll this back a little bit yet. They'll roll it back. They'll release the restrictions a little bit. They'll release us a little bit. But they'll never allow us to gather in crowds again, not until we are willing to get vaccinated. And hopefully that is what is going to make a lot of people push back. It's like the man behind the curtain, folks, in The Wizard of Oz. It's just the old man behind the curtain. So few people are controlling the human experience. And people are just letting it happen. That video that was put out by Larken years ago, the tiny dot. I recommend you watch that. I'll put a link below. I'll look it up. If you haven't watched it, it's a great video. It explains for you in just a couple of minutes how ridiculous this situation that we're in really is. But I just wanted to come and share a little bit of stuff with you today, folks. I mean, I don't really have a lot to say today. I said a fair bit yesterday. I just did want to put out a message to Ian. I did want to mention about my friend who's in lockdown and what she's going through. I think it is remarkable that they put them in rooms with no air, no sunlight, all of this toxic environment around them, just synthetic carpet on the floors. She's a really healthy person. She's a vegan, all that sort of stuff. People, vegans out there. She's a very, very healthy young woman, and within 2 days of being in this room, she's starting to feel a little bit sneezy, a little bit of a sinus problem going on. I'll be ringing her up every day saying, oh, COVID-19, have you got the symptoms? Have you got the symptoms? And they put her in a room, which I would suggest would induce flu-like symptoms. A bit of a stumble there. But they've got her in a room that would produce or induce flu-like symptoms in virtually anybody, folks. I mean, can you see the irony of what they're doing? Or maybe the deliberate setup of what they're doing. I'd say it's more likely a deliberate setup than any form of irony. Get someone just off air travel. She was greeted by a nurse in a hazmat suit at the airport. I mean, arrive home, here's someone in a hazmat suit to greet you, to tell you that you're walking into an incredibly toxic environment and your life may be in danger from where you've been. And then straight off an air flight that you've just done, which is like a 12, 14-hour flight, we're going to stick you in a room with no air, no fresh air, no sunlight, and we're going to tell you not to get sick, and we hope you feel good. And we're going to have food delivered to you in a paper bag that you can't give back to anybody. You can't give you real cutlery to use because you may infect the cutlery with diseases and you may transfer something onto people if they wash your dishes. So we're going to give you bamboo cutlery. We're going to have a security guard standing outside your door 24/7 to make sure you don't leave. Then the poor girl's got to get back to Queensland here. So the question is, are they going to put her straight back into 2 weeks in quarantine when she arrives in Queensland because she just came from New South Wales? I mean, even though she's just done 2 weeks in quarantine, you can see how they can play this, folks. So it's an interesting situation that we're in, but that's the current state of affairs, I guess. It is here anyway. And it is everywhere around the world. We had millions of people in Britain out there cheering their servitude again yesterday. They get out and they do their weekly clap session where they clap the government and they clap their imprisonment. Truly demented situation we find ourselves in, folks. But like I said, a lot of people are getting it. A lot of people are picking up on it. I just urge people to, establish ties with people. Get yourself somewhere that you can retreat to, because things are going to get far more pear-shaped than what they are now. The military is rolling out all around the United States. We've got soldiers deployed here. I'm not seeing any. There are soldiers at the airports that are looking after people that are coming in and that sort of stuff, that are assisting the police. But I'm not seeing them on the streets here. We've got tanks and military rolling out all over the United States. So this could go in any direction, folks. So pay attention and realise that the supply chains are not going to come back. You know, like I said, a lot of farmers have been throwing their food out. There's whole crops that have been thrown out because they can't get them to markets. They're just leaving them and dumping there, and they're just rotting. People commented on the last video when I mentioned that and said, oh, why don't they give it to people? Well, they can't give it to people because there's no workers. There's no truck drivers to drive the stuff to the markets because the workers are all in quarantine. They've all got to be locked down. It's the same here in Australia. Like the vegetables, the fruit and vegetables we have at the stores here in Australia, a lot of these are grown up in places like Bundaberg, and it's all picked by backpackers mainly. And backpackers come to the country and they do 3 or 4 months fruit picking, and they make their money for their travels. And this is where we get our food on our supermarket shelves. That's where it comes from. People have to pick it. But with this lockdown, there's nobody there picking the fruit. It's all just rotting on the vines. It's all just, you know, and the stuff that has been picked is just sitting there in the warehouses waiting for transport, and it's not getting transported. That's the thing. It isn't a matter of the farmers, you know, they could give it away. Sure, they could give it away if they could get it to someone to give it to them. But they can't. That's the thing. All the workers aren't there. And if there's no one there working the farms and there's no one there transporting the food, then how do we get the food? How does society get through this type of a lockdown when they haven't ensured essential services are still running? They're saying, oh yes, we have ensured essential services, medical, police, government, and rolling out this 5G infrastructure. That seems to be their essential services. Yeah, we'll allow the hospitals to open. We'll allow people to go and do normal jobs that we think like supermarkets, and we'll let the pubs stay open, you know, or the bottle shops anyway. But not the food markets, and not the food transporting. We have huge lineups at supermarkets and allow like 10 people in at a time, and all this bullshit that they're going through. I mean, it's ridiculous, folks. It is. And I'll tell you, ScoMo, you're a fucking traitor, mate. You're a traitor. You should be tried for treason, and you're a fucking liar. Same as Brendan Murphy, our chief medical officer. You're a fucking liar, mate. You're a liar. You should be charged with treason, and you should be in jail. And if there is a police officer in this country who has more than 2 brain cells and half a backbone, perhaps you could do something about this. Because these parasites masquerading as government in this country are a bunch of fucking liars. A bunch of treasonous cretins that have put this whole country under lockdown and done all of this shit for no reason whatsoever over this fake pandemic. And it's about time people called it out. So, yeah, I'll put that right out there now. Scott Morrison, I'm accusing you of treason. You're a fucking liar. And Brendan Murphy, I'm accusing you of treason. You're a fucking liar. All you guys should be tried and you should be hung. That's the situation of this country, folks. I hope people realise that this country is run by parasites and it's time they were removed. But anyway, folks, that's all I really wanted to share with you today. Thank you for joining me on this report. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Perhaps I won't get so emotional on the future reports, but I'll tell you, folks, I'm pissed off at this situation. I really am. And I'm pissed off with these parasites and mindless maggots and maggot bags that we have masquerading as government in this country. That horse-faced cretin in New South Wales, what's her name? Gladys Barrett Jerkoff or something, I don't know. But these people, folks, they need to be tried for their actions. They need to be held accountable. They need to be removed. They need to be tried. They need to be jailed. And we need to replace this system with something that serves the people. And this doesn't do it. But anyway, thanks for listening, folks. Thanks to all the people who send me so many kind emails. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. I'll bring you another report in the next couple of days. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.